There are 10,000 ways to die in the 41st millennium, but only one way to be born wrong, outside of it. The void beyond Cadia's grave shimmered with malignant beauty. Once a proud bastion world, now little more than shattered stone, adrift in the eye of terror's shadow. It was a wound that refused to close. Imperial augurs had long grown accustomed to its constant psychic storms, but this time something new bled through. The anomaly began as a pulse, faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat echoing through the warp. The mechanicus aboard the monitoring ship Lex Talionis logged it as another warp echo. But then their Auspex readings faltered. Vox networks screamed static. Machine spirits whimpered. One Magos recited the litany of stability, and then every monitor went dark. When vision returned, the void had torn open, a gate, blacker than the warp itself, rimmed with violet lightning that defied reality. From that gate, something human-shaped fell, not screaming, not burning, simply descending. He landed upon the dust of Cadia's largest remaining fragment, silent, calm, eyes burning with an inner night. Sung Jinwoo had arrived. He remembered the endless dungeon, the trial, the god who fell, the system that broke, and now he felt the warp's breath against his soul like oil and fire. It was familiar and wrong, an ocean of power corrupted by madness. His instincts sharpened. Around him, spectral shapes flickered, the shadows of his army, bound to his will even across universes. "Where am I?" he murmured. His voice was steady, but his mind burned. This world felt hateful. The sky was a wound, bleeding light. The stars screamed. His shadow soldiers stirred beneath the soil, sensing hostility. Above him, thunder rolled. The Lex Talionis descended in orbit, its hull bearing the sigils of the Inquisition, a silver eye flanked by a skull. Servo skulls scattered like carrion birds, recording, analyzing, fearing. Unidentified life form detected. Human genomic match 63%. Warp signature anomalous. Classification heretic. The voice came from a Vox drone hovering nearby. Sun said nothing. He reached into his shadow dimension, and the shadow of Igris emerged, the Red Knight kneeling before him, his armor faintly steaming from the warp's touch. "My lord," Igris growled, "the air itself hates us." "It's fine," Jinwoo replied, studying the warship above. "We've been hated before." Within the Lex Talionis, the Inquisitor, a woman named Kareth Vale, observed in silence. Her augmetic eye focused on the man below, cross-referencing ancient heresy logs, demon incursions, Xenos records. None matched. The creature below stood amid warp radiation like it was nothing. When las scanners targeted him, the beams simply bent away. "Saint or demon, we will find out which," she muttered. Her orders echoed through the Vox. "Deploy a containment strike team. Purity first, mercy never." Sun watched the drop pods pierce the sky like falling meteors. He didn't move as they landed in formation around him. The soldiers of the Astra Militarum emerged, helmets gleaming, las guns raised, purity seals fluttering in the toxic wind. "On your knees, heretic. By order of the Holy Inquisition, you are to be detained for evaluation." "Evaluation?" Jinwoo tilted his head. Then his shadow stirred, thousands of eyes opening across the black sand. The soldiers hesitated as the ground pulsed beneath them. "I won't kneel," Jinwoo said quietly, "but I will listen." The sergeant's Vox unit crackled. "Weapons ready! If it bleeds, it dies!" They's fire erupted. Bolts of red light ripped through the darkness and vanished into the mist before they reached him. In the silence that followed, Jinwoo's shadow army rose, soldiers made of nothingness, armor shaped from fear and devotion. They moved like liquid night, encircling the humans, but never striking. Jinwoo's hand rose, and the world froze. He didn't want to kill them, not yet. From above, Inquisitor Vale watched in awe and fury. She saw not a demon, but a sovereign, one commanding obedience through sheer will. Her ship's machine spirit screamed at her to flee. Instead, she whispered a prayer. "Emperor, grant me sight to know what this being is." Below, Sung Jinwoo turned his gaze skyward. For the first time since his awakening, he felt a presence, vast, ancient, distant, like a god both dying and infinite. He didn't understand it, but it recognized him. For an instant, the Emperor's golden light flickered across the warp, and the shadows recoiled. "That wasn't the system," he murmured. The gate behind him shrank and vanished, leaving only ruin and silence. Inquisitor Vale exhaled. "Capture him, if we can." And thus began the first record of Subject Jinwoo, designation the Shadow Lord in Imperial history. His arrival would mark the first ripple of something the galaxy hadn't felt in millennia, a new god who didn't belong to the warp nor to man. If you crave more tales from the Dark Millennium, smash that subscribe button. The Emperor protects those who support the channel. The shadows moved. The Inquisition advanced. The void watched. They bound him in chains, blessed by the Mechanicus, each link inscribed with catechisms of warding and etched sigils of anti-possession. They did not understand that he was neither daemon nor psyker, but ignorance has never stopped the Imperium from binding what it fears. Sung Jinwoo did not resist. The Lex Talionis's corridors were narrow and dark, humming with incense smoke and machine hymns. Servo skulls chanted binary prayers as the guards led him toward the sanctum of the Inquisition. He walked calmly, shadow armor flickering between existence and memory. The air shimmered with distrust. Inquisitor Kirith Vale watched from the observation deck, her eyes sharp as a bolter's edge. She whispered to her aide, "He allowed capture, but nothing about him is submissive." Her assistant, an old psyker named Thren, trembled. "My lady, his aura burns through the warp like a black sun. The daemons flee from him. I have never felt such hunger." Vale silenced him with a raised hand. "Then we must learn what feeds it." They brought Jinwoo into a containment cell, ringed with null field emitters, psychic dampeners, and purity sigils. At its center glowed the hex of binding, an ancient circle used for interrogating daemon hosts. "Sit," Vale commanded through the vox. He did. The null field thrummed to life. The shadows at his feet retreated like ink from light. He could feel the Emperor's presence woven into the machine's runes, faith made manifest, a cage built from belief. It stung. Vale entered, flanked by 2 Skitarii guards and a floating sensor drone. Name: Sung Jinwoo. Origin world. He hesitated. You wouldn't believe me. Try me. I'm not from your galaxy. Your universe, maybe. Vale's expression didn't change. Heretics, madness. The warp is full of delusion. He smiled faintly. And yet, your mind knows I'm not lying. The Inquisitor's augmetic eye flickered, momentarily failing to process the data. Behind her, the Psyker Thren twitched, blood leaking from his nose. Your power, it's wrong, not warp-born. It moves around it, devours it. Sung's gaze shifted to the old man. You can feel them, can't you? My shadows. Something stirred in the cell. For a heartbeat, the walls dimmed, not darkened, dimmed, as though light itself had been swallowed. Figures formed at the edge of perception, knights, beasts, soldiers, all kneeling. The Skitarii raised their Dalvanic rifles. Vale barked, "Stand down!" The Psyker screamed. The shadows vanished. Sung sighed. I see why I didn't want to fight. Vale stared, speechless. Her training told her to call exterminatus, to purge and pray. But she saw discipline in him, not madness, purpose, not chaos. Why are you here, Jinwoo? She asked finally. He looked up at the ceiling, where holy wards flickered faintly. I was fighting something, a god that thought it was immortal. When it died, the system that governed my world broke. I fell through the crack it left. Vale frowned. A god died, and you survived its death. I killed it. Silence. The only sound was the hum of the null field. The Inquisitor turned away. Bring him to the chapel. I want to see what the Emperor's light does to this visitor. The chapel of the Lex Talionis was a cathedral of iron and fire, its stained glass depicting the Emperor's triumphs. Tech priests had grafted machine limbs onto the altar, feeding power through cables like veins. Incense filled the air. Sung stood before the golden effigy, the Emperor upon his throne, radiant, distant, sorrowful. Bow, Vale said. He did not. Instead, he closed his eyes. The warp around them trembled. The ship's machine spirits wailed. Thren fell to his knees, clutching his skull. Then something impossible happened. The Emperor statue glowed, not with the artificial light of the chapel's lumen globes, but with genuine radiance, a soft pulse that emanated warmth rather than judgment. Sung Jinwoo opened his eyes. The glow faded. I don't worship him, but he knows I'm not his enemy. Vale's voice was a whisper. What are you? He looked at his hands where his shadow armor flickered like breathing smoke. A hunter. I kill monsters. But in your world, he glanced around the chapel, at the blood-stained icons and broken pews. It seems the monsters wear many faces. Vale said nothing. The silence stretched. Then the alarm screamed. A tech priest's voice echoed through the vox. My lady, Auspex contact, massive biosignatures. They come from below. The planet's crust is alive. Vale froze. Tyranids. Sung turned to the Inquisitor, opened the bay doors. For what? He smiled. For the army that follows. The shadows roared. Still with us in the darkness? Hit that like button if this tale chills your soul. The alarms blared louder. Inquisitor Vale stared through the viewing port as the surface below erupted with chitin and acid. A Tyranid splinter fleet had found Cadia's corpse, and now so had something far older. Sung Jinwoo turned to the Inquisitor, opened the bay doors. For what? He smiled. For the army that follows. The shadows roared. The Lex Talionis hung in orbit like a wounded angel, its hull bleeding light and debris into the void. Below, Cadia's remains boiled with life, not the sacred kind, but the crawling horror of the great devourer. Tyranid spores fell like rain, their chitinous impact splitting ancient rock. The sky itself seemed to scream as new hives burrowed through what was left of the planet's crust. From the bridge, Inquisitor Careth Vale could only watch in silence as the tactical hololith filled with red. Every augur return was hostile biomass. Every prayer felt too small. Then she saw him. On the cracked surface, surrounded by the crawling tide, a single figure stood, human-shaped, unarmored, unafraid. The auspex labeled him, Subject Jinwoo. Her crew's terrified voices flooded the Vox. He's on the surface. No drop pod recorded. Void breach. No teleport signature. He just appeared. Vale clenched her jaw. Saint or monster, Emperor guide me. Jinwoo breathed in the poisoned air. The planet's atmosphere was thick with spores and psychic static, a miasma of organic hunger. He could feel it, not just through his senses, but in the pressure against his soul. The Tyranids were alive in the warp, a vast predatory intelligence brushing against his mind. Another hive mind, he muttered. Good. I've been meaning to test myself. The ground split open before him. From the fissure rose a monstrous Tyranid carnifex, its carapace wet with ichor, and its maw dripping acid. Its roar cracked the air like thunder. Jinwoo raised his hand. Shadows burst outward in a storm of black flame. Arise. From the ashes of Cadia, his army emerged, a tide of silhouettes, armed in silence. Igris led the vanguard, his crimson armor gleaming beneath the alien sun. Iron soldiers, wraiths, and beasts of nightmare formed ranks without sound or hesitation. The Tyranid's carnifex charged. Igris met it head-on, his blade shearing through chitin as if cutting parchment. Black ichor exploded across the battlefield. The shadows surged forward, devouring lesser gaunts and warriors. Jinwoo moved through the chaos like smoke, his presence bending the world. Wherever his gaze fell, shadows obeyed. Each enemy slain joined him, their corpses consumed, reborn as part of his ever-growing legion. The Tyranids adapted, always adapting. Bioplasma rained from above. Winged harpies shrieked through the air, acid dripping from their claws. Jinwoo raised both hands, and the sky turned black. Beru. The insectoid form of his oldest general descended from the void, wings shimmering with void light. The former Ant King bared his fangs in delight. "My king!" Beru cried, voice echoing across the field. "Shall we feast?" "Leave nothing," Jinwoo replied. The Shadow Monarch's army erupted in motion, a storm of blades and wings tearing through the swarm. The Tyranids met them in equal ferocity. Bone met shadow, acid met silence, and the ground itself drowned in corpses. From orbit, Inquisitor Vale's ship recorded impossible readings. The biosignatures of the Tyranids disappeared faster than weapons fire could account for. The psychic residue of the swarm was being devoured. "Emperor, preserve us," whispered Thren. "He's eating them." Vale's mechanical eye locked on Jinwoo's form. "No, he's converting them." Her screens flickered with corrupted imagery, the fallen Tyranids rising again, but not as Xenos. Their carapace darkened, their eyes burned violet, their movements disciplined. They obeyed the Shadow Monarch now. "Shadow Tyranids," Vale murmured. "The galaxy itself bends before him." Hours passed. The battle raged like a storm of apocalypse. Jinwoo stood atop a mound of corpses that were already dissolving into shadow. His army, countless and growing, stretched to the horizon. The air was heavy with the reek of war. He felt the hive mind notice him. It pressed against his mind, a vast chorus of whispers and hunger. "Join us." The voice was immense, ancient, inhuman. It did not speak in words, but in instinct, a song of assimilation and eternity. Jinwoo smiled. "I don't join hives." He plunged his hand into the ground. Black veins of shadow spread outward, consuming everything they touched. The planet itself began to rot. The hive mind screamed. Above, psychic storms ripped through space. Vale's ship trembled as its Gellerfields buckled under the weight of the clash, the Shadow Monarch against a god of flesh. "Disengage orbit," Vale ordered. "He's collapsing the surface." "No response from the engines, my lady." The viewports filled with black mist, not smoke, but shadows rising into the void like ink. Through the chaos, Vale's vox crackled. "Inquisitor." "This is Jinwoo." She froze. "How are you?" "You wanted to see the Emperor's will?" The connection buzzed with static. "Look down." She did. From orbit, the ruins of Cadia were no longer visible. The whole fragment had turned into a single mass of writhing shadow, a storm swallowing the Tyranids whole. Their psychic beacon vanished, the hive mind's link was cut. In all Imperial history, that had never happened. When the storm cleared, Jinwoo stood amid silence. No swarm, no enemies, only ash and wind. Beru approached, kneeling. "The field is yours, my king." Jinwoo nodded. His power hummed softly, restrained again. "Good. Then we move on." He looked to the stars, towards the warships circling above. The Imperium had seen him now. There would be no hiding. "Let them come," he murmured. "Let them decide what I am." In orbit, Vale whispered a single phrase. "The Emperor's hound, unleashed." The Imperium had faced demons, Xenos, heretics, but never something that made all three tremble. The Shadow Army turned its gaze to the heavens, and for the first time since Cadia's fall, the void itself seemed afraid. Still watching in the dark, the tension builds. Subscribe to witness more tales from the dark millennium. The warp screamed. Not in anger, in recognition. Something had awakened within it, something alien yet familiar to its madness. The Imperium twisted upon itself as countless daemons turned their gaze toward a single point in real space, the shattered corpse of Cadia, where a new shadow reigned. Sung Jinwoo's presence had disrupted the psychic equilibrium of an entire sector. The Emperor's tarot burned with unreadable omens. Astropaths across the segmentum fainted mid-communion. Even the chaos gods paused, momentarily, to listen. Inquisitor Parith Vale stood before the viewing pane of the Lex Talionis. The void outside shimmered with unholy light as warp storms bloomed like black roses. Her ship trembled under the pressure of unreality. Her psyker aide Thren was dying, eyes rolled white, voice trembling. "They whisper his name in the warp now, my lady. Jinwoo, Jinwoo, Shadow King." Vale gripped his shoulder. "Focus. What do they want?" Thren bled from his ears. "They want him gone. The warp cannot digest him. He is an infection that eats what it touches." Vale turned toward the hollow projector, where hollow tactical reports scrolled endlessly. Entire fleets had gone silent. Mechanicus ships reported Auspex interference. The Astronomicon flight flickered like a dying flame. "Emperor, guide me," she murmured. "He didn't just kill the Tyranids, he wounded the warp itself." Below, on Cadia's ruins, Jinwoo stood at the center of a crater that once teemed with life. His army rested, not because they needed rest, but because he did. The battle had drained him. The warp's pressure was constant here, like breathing poison through cloth. He looked toward the horizon, where the black storms of the Eye of Terror churned. He could feel something watching, not through eyes, but through faith twisted into hunger. "You've noticed me," he said calmly. The air split. A figure stepped through the rent in space, tall, armored in gold that burned like molten sunlight, face hidden behind a skull mask. His voice was a choir of 10,000 souls. "I am the Herald of Tzinch. The Architect of Fate sees your rise, Shadowborn. He offers you purpose. Join him, and your dominion shall stretch across eternity." Jinwoo regarded him calmly. "Eternity? I already had that. It was boring." The daemon's grin split its face open, revealing fractal teeth. "You think yourself a king. You are a mistake, a flicker of false divinity, unbound by the warp's truth. You are an intrusion." "I'm fine with that. I've been an intrusion all my life." The herald's laughter warped the ground. "Then let me show you the cost of defiance." The sky ignited. Warp fire rained upon the battlefield. Jinwoo's shadows hissed as raw chaos seared their forms. Demonic hosts crawled out of reality's cracks, twisted avians with burning eyes, serpents of living spillwork, shrieking horrors of change. Beru roared, his wings aflame. "My king, the air itself attacks us!" "Hold the line," Jinwoo ordered. The Shadow Legion surged. Blades of night clashed with fire of madness. Every swing tore through impossible geometries. Reality screamed. Jinwoo stepped into the storm, his hands glowing with dark power. "Arise," he whispered again. But this time, something different answered. The warp howled as the fallen daemon's essence was devoured, reshaped, their corrupted forms bent to his will, emerging as shadows of impossible origin, creatures once of the warp, now loyal to him. The herald recoiled. "You cannot enslave what is eternal." "I don't enslave. I command." He snapped his fingers. The herald's form shattered like glass, the fragments sucked into the darkness. The storm calmed. But its echoes reached far beyond. Across the Eye of Terror, daemons shrieked in fury and awe. A mortal had stolen from them, reshaped the warp's children into his own. The chaos god stirred. Khorne raged at the theft of blood and war. Tzeentch smiled through burning feathers. Nurgle chuckled, savoring new corruption. Slaanesh whispered of beauty in this dark king's defiance. The Imperium psychers screamed in unison. On holy Terra, the golden throne dimmed for a heartbeat, as if the Emperor himself was considering this intruder. In orbit, Veil's ship teetered at the edge of the warp storm. Her officers shouted over each other. "My lady, we cannot maintain position. The Geller field's collapsing. Reality is bending around the planet." Veil gritted her teeth. "Open the Vox channel, now." Her image flickered into being before Jinwoo, projected in ghostly light amid the battlefield. "You've broken an entire sector. Do you even understand what you've done?" Jinwoo looked at her calmly. "I stopped an invasion. You're welcome. You've drawn the attention of chaos. Do you think they'll stop? You've made yourself their obsession." He smirked faintly. "Good. I was getting bored." Her voice trembled between awe and rage. "You are a weapon the Imperium cannot control." He tilted his head. "Then don't try." Her eyes hardened. "You will not walk free, Shadow King. If you won't serve, the Inquisition will purge you, in the name of the Emperor." Jinwoo's tone turned cold. "You mistake my silence for obedience. Don't repeat that mistake." The connection severed. As the warp storm receded, Jinwoo gazed at the broken sky. His shadow army stood ready. Igris approached. "My lord, what comes next?" He looked toward the heavens, where countless ships prepared to descend. "They'll come for me. And we, my king," he smiled faintly, "will show them what true shadows are." The void rippled, warp currents twisted. From within their depths, chaos gathered its armies, and the Inquisition rallied its fleets. The galaxy was preparing for a war it didn't understand. Between faith and corruption, light and shadow, a new power had stepped onto the board, and it didn't belong to anyone. Comment your theories below. What corruption stalks our heroes? The void had gone silent, not in peace, but in fear. For 3 solar days, the Inquisition's fleets circled the shattered remnants of Cadia, weapons primed, faith burning in their hearts, and yet none dared to descend again. Even from orbit, they could see the storm of shadows lingering like smoke from a god's funeral pyre. The Lex Talionis floated among them, its hull cracked, its machine spirits trembling. Inquisitor Kareth Veil stood on the command dais, staring at the endless black that pulsed below. Her lips moved in prayer, though her mind knew the truth. This was no demon incursion, no simple heresy. This was something new, something beyond the Emperor's comprehension, or perhaps something he allowed. Her vox crackled. "This is Magos FAL aboard the Unbroken Faith. Readings indicate stable gravity on the surface. The warp signature has normalized." Vale's eyes narrowed. "Normalized? After that storm?" "Yes, my lady. The world fragment is stable, but changed. You should see this." The hololith flickered. The image that emerged silenced the bridge. Where Cadia's corpse once floated, a new structure now rose, a colossal fortress of black stone and shadow steel, pulsing faintly with inner light. Its towers reached into the void like spears. Its walls were carved with runes that defied logic, and atop its highest spire, a throne of obsidian waited. Vale whispered, "A citadel." Her aide Thren, pale and trembling, whispered the words the warp had delivered to him moments earlier. "The Shadow Throne." Below, Sung Jinwoo sat on that throne. The shadows of his army filled the voided plain, hundreds of thousands of forms, still and silent, their gazes fixed on him. Around the citadel, the air shimmered with fragments of the warp's fading essence, tamed and harnessed like broken glass in sunlight. Igris stood beside him, his crimson armor still scorched from battle. "My king, the Imperium watches, their ships gather." "I know," Jinwoo replied softly. His voice echoed across the chamber, carried by power alone. "Do we strike, my lord?" "No." His eyes glowed faintly. "Not yet." He closed them, sensing through the endless dark. Threads of the warp twisted like veins across the galaxy, each pulsing with life, corruption, and despair. He could feel every scream, every dying light, every soul begging for salvation. This galaxy was drowning. I thought my world was cruel, but this is something else entirely. Beru emerged from the shadowed floor, wings unfurled. "My king, you have the strength to claim it. Why hold back?" Jinwoo's expression darkened. "Because power without purpose is just another monster." He rose from the throne. The army knelt. He looked toward the sky, where the faint shimmer of Imperial warships hung like stars. "They'll call me a demon. They'll send their angels to kill me." He smiled. "Let them come." High above, Vale's fleet prepared for war. A strike group of Adeptus Astartes had arrived, the angels penitent, their black and ivory armor etched with oaths of purity. Their chaplain, Brother Champion Lucen, transmitted directly to the Lex Talionis. "Inquisitor Vale, we have received your summons. Our bolters are ready. Who do we purge?" Vale hesitated. "He's not what I expected, Brother Champion. Demon, Psyker, or Xenos?" She stared at the throne on her screen. "None, and all." Lucen growled. "Heresy wears many faces. We shall unmake them all." "Wait," she said. "If you go in unprepared, you'll die." He gave a grim smile. "Then we will die with faith." The transmission ended. Vale watched the Astartes drop pods streak through the void like meteors. Her heart clenched. "Emperor, forgive me." Jinwoo felt them before he saw them, the impact of faith, the weight of conviction. He could taste their courage, sharp and pure as tempered steel. The first pod slammed into the citadel's outer wall, then another. Doors burst open. The Astartes emerged in disciplined formation, bolters blazing holy light through the gloom. Their war cries echoed, "By the blood of saints! By the will of the Emperor!" The Shadow Legion answered with silence. Steel met shadow. Bolter fire tore through the air, shattering constructs of darkness that reformed immediately. Igris led the countercharge, blade meeting chainsword, sparks flying like dying stars. Jinwoo walked through the chaos unhurried. The chaplain saw him, tall, calm, crowned with lightless power. "Identify yourself, demon," Lucen roared, his Crozius crackling. "I'm not your enemy." "Then prove it!" Lucen charged. Their clash was thunder. Warp light met the Emperor's faith in a single blinding strike. Shadows burned white, purity cracked black. When the light faded, Lucen knelt, his weapon shattered. He looked up, not in defeat, but in awe. "You resist the warp's touch." "I devour it," Jinwoo said softly, "and I give it form." Lucen's eyes widened. "You could end it, the madness, the heresy, the gods." Jinwoo extended his hand. "Then stand with me." The chaplain hesitated. His oath to the Emperor screamed within him, but deep down something ancient stirred, the desire for victory, no matter the cost. He bowed his head. "If you are false, my faith will burn you. Then burn me if I fail." The Shadow Army lowered their weapons. The surviving Astartes followed Lucen's lead, uncertain, trembling. Above them, the storm quieted. Inquisitor Vale watched the impossible unfold. Astartes standing beside the being she was ordered to destroy. She whispered to herself, "Perhaps the Emperor has a plan after all." Then she activated her vox. "Cancel the bombardment." Her officers turned to her, shocked. "My lady?" She said, "He's not the enemy, not yet." That night, if night existed in the void, Jinwoo sat again upon his throne, watching the endless dark. He had arrived alone. Now he ruled the ruins of a world. His Shadow Legion stretched to the horizon, bolstered by Astartes who prayed beside monsters of ink. For the first time, Sung Jinwoo felt something unfamiliar in this cursed galaxy. Purpose. "I won't join your gods," he whispered to the unseen warp, "but I'll make sure they fear mine." The darkness trembled, and somewhere far away, on a throne of gold, the Emperor's eyes opened just a fraction wider. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there are no heroes, only survivors who burn brighter than the void around them. Sung Jinwoo became one such flame. Neither saint nor daemon, his presence tore holes through fate itself. The Inquisition could not cage him. The Chaos Gods could not tempt him. Even the warp, eternal and infinite, recoiled from his touch. His citadel of shadow became a myth whispered across imperial worlds, a place where faith and fear coexisted, where fallen soldiers rose again in service not to chaos, nor to the Emperor, but to him. Some called him the Emperor's Hound, others the Shadow God. To the Inquisition, he was a paradox that should not exist. But for those who saw his armies march against daemons and Xenos alike, he was salvation, a black sun shining in a universe of endless night. And deep within the warp, the gods whispered among themselves, wondering whether they had just witnessed the birth of a fifth power. The Emperor protects. More stories await.